Hey guys, how's it going? So today we're going to be talking about the best or most useful attachment for your armor. Now just starting off, I have all my armor here, so I've actually taken all my pieces of armor and put the deep pocketed attachment on it, and so I've actually increased my carrying capacity by quite a bit overall. And that's essentially what you want to do with all of your armor, is just pick one of them and then attach that specific thing to all your armor, and then obviously that will greatly enhance whatever you're picking. Now, a lot of these are actually just to help you with unarmed damage or AP or things like reducing radiation damage. So none of them are really that helpful. Overall, I think they're all pretty balanced. None of them are like really good for some reason, but there are successions to it. So obviously pocketed is not as good as deep pocketed. It's just deep pocketed is literally just an improvement of pocketed, so it costs more materials, and that's about it. The same thing goes for lighter build. You have lighter build is the very first one, and then down here you have ultralight build. So like I said before, this just increases the amount of materials you need to actually upgrade this. Although you do have some pretty interesting ones like weighted, which actually gives you the ability to ignore some of the target's armor with unarmed and melee attacks. Essentially just saying if your arms weigh more, you can swing your melee weapon with more power. So it would be interesting to see how much this would actually negate the target's armor, but unfortunately I don't really have the materials to do this with all my armor, so we're not really going to be testing all of these because that would be an insane amount of materials to equip all of these on every single piece of armor, but nevertheless we can read the descriptions and get an idea of what they would do. Alright guys, so now we're just seeing how much our deep-pocketed armor actually helps us. So I basically removed everything that contributes to it, and I actually found out the helmet doesn't contribute whatsoever. You can't actually have deep-pocketed in your helmet. I don't know if you can actually have anything on your helmet attachment-wise, and actually I don't think we can have any attachments on our helmet. It's just kind of there for the resistance and the legendary perk. So we have the left arm, left leg, chest piece, right arm, and right leg, and all of these have deep pocketed on them, so they actually give us more carry weight, and it's going to be interesting to see how much it actually adds. So if we start putting them on again, you'll notice I was at 250, and actually if I take them all off again, I was actually over encumbered, but if we put them all on, we actually go up to a maximum of 310 carry weight. So essentially we're adding 60 carry weight to our guy here just because we're wearing deep pocketed armor. So the details of this armor is that anything other than a chest plate actually counts as 10 carry weight. So you can see I've just been subtracting 10 each time, and then the chest piece actually counts as 20. So overall we have 10, 20, 30, 40, and 60 carry weight total. So that's pretty cool. I think deep pocketed is one of the most useful attachments on there. I'm not sure if it's the best. I guess it really depends on what type of things you like to do. If you like to melee attack, then there might be some other things you'd like to have. So brawling increases unarmed damage. So we already know what lighter build does. Also pocketed. Braced reduces additional melee damage while blocking, so you just take less damage when you block a melee attack. Brawling increases your unarmed damage, so just using fists. Strengthened is pretty interesting. It just reduces limb damage. Lead-lined, kind of like in your power armor, reduces radiation damage. Stabilized, which is pretty interesting. Scoped aiming is more steady. Aerodynamic, power attacks drain less AP. And like I said before, weighted actually ignores some of the target's armor when using unarmed and melee attacks. So some of these are pretty interesting. I would say probably the best ones are going to be deep-pocketed. Let's say if you're using melee or unarmed weapons, I'm going to say weighted is probably the next best. And then just because a lot of these are kind of the same thing, I'm going to say stabilized is going to be the next best. Depending on how much these actually change your gameplay, I wouldn't say they're too necessary to even have. I would say deep-pocketed is a pretty big difference, but I don't know about the other ones. Who knows, maybe brawling actually increases your unarmed damage by 10% per piece, and then with the chest plate is 20%. You don't really know. although it may not be even applicable to the chest piece. Yeah, so we actually have different ones for the chest piece. I guess that was just for the arm that we had those. On the chest piece we have padded, reduced damage from explosions, asbestos lining, reduced energy damage, and immune to being set on fire. That's actually pretty interesting. I guess that's really useful if you're going up against guys with flamethrowers, because they can't do any damage over time with setting you on fire. Lead lined, we already know about that one. Dense, greatly reduced damage from explosions, so that's a direct upgrade from padded. Biocom mesh increases duration of chems by 50%. That's pretty interesting. Now I wonder if this applies to food in general or just chems like stim packs and psychos and things like that, or if it maybe applies to food with bonuses to carry weight or melee damage, things of that nature. And pneumatic reduces the magnitude of incoming staggers, which is a pretty interesting description. I guess it means when you get hit with a heavy melee attack, your guy doesn't stagger as much, or maybe it doesn't last as long, because I guess basically what enemies can do is if there's enough of them, they can just continue to stagger you and make it so you can't run away or attack back or anything like that. So this may help you if you get into like a stun lock situation, if you're a melee heavy character. And yeah, I was right about the helmet. There's nothing you can put on it, at least for this helmet. I don't know about other helmets, but from the looks of it, you can't really put anything on there. So this was just a quick look at the attachments you can get on your regular pieces of armor. I'm sure you guys have probably looked at that stuff already, but I just think some of the descriptions are pretty interesting, and to be honest, I hadn't even looked at any of them in real detail, other than the deep pocketed armor. Now I do think it's interesting that the chest piece even has an attachment that kind of does what the chemist perk already does, which is to increase the duration of chems by 50%, so it's kind of like having the first rank of chemist. So I guess in total, if you have that chest piece attachment as well, and rank 4 of chemist, you can actually have chems last 250% longer. And I'm assuming this applies to drugs like jet as well, so you may be in a slow motion state for, I think, as long as 35 seconds. And there's some other drug that actually has more than 10 seconds as a default. I think it's like Psychojet or something, has 12 or 15 seconds. I'm not too sure, but just thinking about that is pretty interesting. You can have certain drugs last a really long time. So like I said before, just kind of an in-depth look at the attachments for armor. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you leave a like and share. Really helps with the video's performance. Also, if you're new to my channel, make sure you subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.
Got a doll baby, I love her so. Nothing else like her anywhere you go. A man, she's anything but calm.